together. But other items that have come out of it is that we are aligned with the curriculum. Now, isn't that a basic point that we need to make? That, and how I carry it around in my brain, I call it the CIA of teaching. The curriculum should be aligned with the instruction, or the instruction actually to the curriculum. The assessments that we give in our classrooms should be aligned to the curriculum. Ergo, our instruction is aligned to the assessments that we give, right? That's another thing that's happening in those schools, is that curriculum is aligned. All right? And we have a vertical articulation of the curriculum. So there are other studies, Adam, that have looked at that specific aspect. Okay? Other questions or thoughts? Now this is interesting. Remember we talked about class size, right? And we talked about class size reduction. If we take class size, reduce it from 24 to 1 to 15 to 1, okay, we get about an 8 percentile gain, 8 percentile point gain. But if we work on increasing teacher quality from the 25th to the 75th percentile, we get about a 30 percentile point gain. So if you want to really put your money where it's going to make a difference, it's in, as was shared earlier, supporting teachers and what they do in the classroom and helping them to work with the students and helping the students to learn. Before we move on to question 2, let's stop and process what we've just talked about and think about for a few moments. Do you have any questions or thoughts about what's been shared about the research? Some questions or thoughts? There are some fact sheets that are in the back, and we'll be going over all of the resources that are available to you so that you can get comfortable sharing this information with others. But the important message that comes out of this part, and I feel like I'm preaching to the choir a little bit, is that teachers make a difference. I remember being in a group with teachers, and I shared this information, and the teacher said, I feel so much better. You know, a lot of times, you know, we hear that we're just not doing, right? That we're just not impacting student achievement, but we are. We do. And that empowers us to help us to work with kids. That what I do, when I plan my lessons, that what's going to happen as a result of planning those lessons is going to be increased student learning, or student progress, if you will. Okay? So it can be empowering to see that what I do makes a difference. Imagine going to work every day and thinking, I can't make a difference. Okay? So what we do does make a difference. Well, as we go along, there are 2 parking lots that are in the back. Okay? And that's not for you to stand around there on your cell phone and talk. You know, it's not the cell phone parking lot at the airport, right? It's a parking lot so that if you have questions or thoughts that come up during the few days that we're together, you have some Post-it notes at your table to write them down there, and we'll put them in the parking lot and we'll address them at different times as you have questions. There will be many opportunities to ask questions, but this is an effective tool for you to use also when you're presenting, is the parking lot. Have you ever heard, you all have, yeah, you've heard of the parking lot, so you know how that works. So again, if you have any questions, put them in the parking lot and we'll address them. So question 2, what is an effective teacher? And this is the next question that we're going to talk about. Now, a lot of times, as I said earlier, when I go in to observe these great teachers, and what we often think is, I'll know a really great teacher when I see one, right? If I walk in that classroom, I know it when I see it. And so a lot of times, great teaching, effective teaching, has been a bit of an enigma, right? What is it that actually does make an effective teacher? But as we do research and as we are starting to learn more, or have been learning a lot over the past many years regarding effective teaching research, we're getting a clearer picture of what makes an effective teacher, okay? And before we share a bit more information about that, if you would turn to page 21 under day 1 for our trainer resources, day 1, you will see a sheet that has an activity description called Design a Teacher. If you turn to page 22, you will see a nice little person there. That's all I can do, folks. I am not very, no, just kidding. So, you know, I do the stick figures. Do you do stick figures? When I draw things on board, my students are just like, just don't even try. You know, it's just, I try to draw a light bulb and it looks like an ear. It's just not working for me. So anyway, so what I'd like for you to think about for a few moments and talk at your table, brainstorm, what are those qualities? What is it that does make an effective teacher? Okay, I'd like for you to talk at your table for a few moments, and remember, when we come back together, when we need to come back together, I'm going to raise my hand, and if you'd raise your hand, and we'll all come back together. And if you'd write, you can write in the middle, write on that paper, what are some ideas that you have, what do you know from what you've read as to what makes an effective teacher, okay? An effective teacher. Let's start with this table right here. What's something that you all talked about?
We talked about being organized, motivating, challenging.
Okay.
Different, you know, believing in the children.
Okay. How many of you said organized? Something about organized. Challenging. Motivating. Okay. Believing in kids. Believing that they can do it. That comes along with those high expectations. Liking them. Why would you want to go to a job where you didn't like 13-year-olds, right? Now, I will tell you, a lot of people, how many of you have a middle school background? And you know, people have asked you, what do you do? And you say, well, I go and I hang out with 13-year-olds all day. They automatically think you're strange. Yeah. That there's automatically something wrong with you, right? That you'd really want to hang out with them. You gotta like kids. If you don't like kids, go out and find something else to do. Okay? And there are some folks where you wonder, why do you want to come here if you don't really like what it is that you're doing? You know, let's go find something else and be around people you want to be around and that kind of thing. But you know, and one of the studies I think that I've shared is where we go and we interview, we observe teachers who work with students. And one of those studies were teachers who work with at-risk and highly mobile students. Students who are homeless, students who are children of migrant families who move a lot, children who have high transiency due to poverty, right? Where money runs out for rent and I move to the next town over so that we can have somewhere to live. And what's a clear aspect about these teachers is that they have a true care, love, and concern for their kids. But what's also interesting about them is that they have a true care, love, and concern for their kids so much that they're not going to let them off the hook. You know, one of the teachers, we said, you know, how would you explain your relationship with kids? And she said, they know that I'm a player in their success, that I'm there with them every step of the way. Okay? And that's something that we think about. All right. How about Jefferson Parish? What's something that you all had on your list?
Showing respect for the kids.
Yes. You know, basic human dignity, right? Showing respect for working with children and respecting one another. The greatest thing that we can do to have kids respect one another is to respect them, to model that respect. And how we talk to kids indicates whether we have respect for them. If we go into the classroom, how they talk to one another is an indication of that climate in the classroom, so respect. How about at the Louisiana Department of Ed back there? What's something you all had on your list?